begin our service on page 127. We're at the top.
Shana Tova to all of you, and welcome to our Kol Nidrei services in this Makom Kodesh, in this holy place that we make holy by our presence and by what we say and do over the next day. I want to introduce, for those of you that don't know us, I want to introduce our clergy team here. My name is Rabbi Lynn Goldsmith, and I came in here from Broomfield. And we have student Rabbi Scott Goldberg, not Smith-Berg, who flies in from LA, so he's got quite a commute. And I think most of you do know Natalie Fields, who has been here for a lot of years.
15 years, I think.
Oh, yes. And her commute is the shortest of all of us. We'll be spending the next 25 hours praying, studying, and fasting, and making plans to improve ourselves in the coming year. Fasting. I want to say a quick word about fasting. We're commanded to inflict ourselves on Yom Kippur, and that is actually in our Torah. And the ancient rabbis interpreted that as fasting, that we need to fast for these 25 hours. We're also told that we need to live by the commandments and not die by them. Many people are able to fast, and they find that it enhances their Yom Kippur experiences. But others either cannot or they find it very, very difficult. If fasting makes you ill, if you have low blood pressure or you're going to faint, or you're one of those, if you're pregnant or you're ill or you're older, you are exempt from fasting. And more importantly, if you have to take medication with food or water, you've got to do it. I mean, there's absolutely no question. If you can't fast, you don't need to eat as you normally do. You just need to eat enough to keep you going so that you can continue. It's not going to do you any good to fast if you faint and have to leave and not make it through the rest of the service. So with that in mind, I wanted to begin tonight's service with a short quote about forgiveness. And that's a subject that we're going to be reading much about today and also on tomorrow. Rabbi David Wolfe said, "This is the time to express your deep regret to others for having hurt them. But there are a few preconditions. You must be able to trust that your words will be kept private. You should be able to formulate exactly what you've done, and you have to be prepared to be accepted or not. In the end, the highest goal is to be at peace with yourselves and with each other and with God." So I pray that we can all attain that highest goal. I'm going to ask you please to turn to page 5. On this journey, our soul will awaken to itself. We will venture from innocence to sin and then back to innocence again. This is a journey from denial to awareness, from self-deception to judgment. We will learn our divine name. We will move from self-hatred to self-forgiveness, from anger into healing, from hard-heartedness to broken-heartedness. This is the journey the soul takes to transform itself and to evolve. The journey from boredom and staleness, from deadness to renewal. It is a journey from little mind to big mind, from confinement and the ego to a sense of ourselves as part of something larger. It is a journey from isolation to a sense of our intimate connection to all being. Every soul needs to express itself. Every heart needs to crack itself open. And every one of us needs to move from anger to healing, from denial to consciousness, and from boredom to renewal. These needs did not arise yesterday. They are the most ancient of human yearnings, and they are fully expressed in the pageantry and ritual of the days of awe, and in the great journey we make between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I'm going to ask you please to turn to page 9, and we invite to light our Kol Nidrei candles, Adrian Zobel and Carol Tuttle. And we would also like to honor those who will be our hosts for tomorrow for the break fast, and hostesses too. Alyssa Spangler, Judy Warren, Eli Alberts, Anita Simon, Lana Olson, Debbie Solomon, Leah and John Scher, Michael Harris, Carol Tuttle, oh, hi Carol, you're twice, and Judy Settle. And I would also like to thank those who stepped up to help with the schlepping in the absence of Lenny Abels and with Mike, unfortunately, having problems with his hip. And I've been told that you all know who you are. So, with the people whose names I called, would you mind coming up? And the candle blessing is in the middle of page 9. I hope so. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'hadikner shel yom ha-kippurim. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, and giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on Yom Kippur. And please join us in singing the Shehekianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh. Thank you very much, all of you. Not only for lighting the candles, but for all your help as well. And we turn now to page 10. Can I learn from deprivation? Can I grow from self-restraint? For this holy day, our Mishnah prescribes 5 disciplines. Refrain from food and drink, from bathing, from cosmetics, from wearing leather shoes, and from sexual intimacy. Withdrawing from physical nourishment, may I nourish my soul instead. Rejecting adornment, pampering, and vanity, may I turn my focus inward now. Stepping out of comfort and self-indulgence, may I stand this day more simply in humility. Denied the body's pleasure and release, may my desire be for insight, self-improvement, and the courage to change. I ask you to please turn to page 14. Kol Nidrei is probably one of the most well-known prayers to all of us Jews. When people come to Yom Kippur services, they come not to hear my brilliant sermon. They come because they want to hear the strains of Kol Nidrei. I think it strikes a chord in all of us every single one of us. And when it comes up every year, that chord gets played so beautifully. So we are about to enter into the part of the service where we will be chanting Kol Nidrei. It's done 3 times. I've never understood why. Somebody once told me it was to make sure that people who come late would be able to hear it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's as good as ever. But I think since we only hear it once a year, and since it is such a powerful, powerful melody, to hear it 3 times is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm on page 14, and I'm going to ask you to read responsibly. I'll read one paragraph, and then you'll read the next. Yom Kippur, the Jewish people's festival of the soul, and Kol Nidrei, its sacred portal, a night of deep emotion, a night, as the psalmist wrote, to rejoice with trembling.
We rejoice in the sound of Kol Nidrei, rhythmic words of release, of vows, oaths, and promises to God we fail to keep.
We tremble at the melody, music of spiritual amazement. It fills us with awe as we stand before God in Torah.
We rejoice that we stand together, strengthened by community, in this hour of shared weakness and humility.
We tremble, for tonight we confess our flaws, admit our imperfection, and acknowledge a power far greater than our understanding.
We rejoice that we commit ourselves to great endeavors, because we feel so deeply and think so nobly.
We tremble, for we find that our ideals are far greater than our ability. Our promises surpass our might.
We rejoice in the freedom that is Kol Nidrei's true gift, the freedom to begin a new year without fear of failure, to aspire to keep God's image in the world.
We tremble because we are mortal, and we rejoice in our gratitude for life.
We rejoice in trembling and enter Kol Nidrei with its heart and gratitude.
Are you going to play? Okay. Page 16. To please rise and turn back to page 15. Kol Nidrei, a chant that begins in a whisper and rises to a cry. On this night of promises remembered, each soul in solitude communes with the soul of the universe. God, from this day of atonement to the next, may we reach it in peace. And all Israel makes these vows, to turn from wrong, dishonesty, and greed, to walk in the path of justice and right. Yet we know our weakness and how prone we are to fail. Help us to keep our word. Help us to act with humility and integrity. We seek pardon and forgiveness. We seek more radiance and light. And I'll ask you all please to turn to page 18. And as Kol Nidrei is played and sung, please concentrate on what the words mean. Not only the literal meaning, but what it means to you in your heart.
Kol Nidrei, Vesarei, Zacharamei, Vekonamei, Vekinuyei, Vekinusei, Ushevuot, Zindarna, Udhishavana, Udachavimna, V'tahasarna, Al nafshatana. Mi'yom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim, Haba Aleinu Le'tova, Kuhon, Ya'acharat Navechon, Kuhon, Yechon Shalom, Yom Kippurim zeh ayat Shavitin, Shavitin, B'Telim U'Vutalim, La Shavirim, L'Akayamim, Nidrana, La Nidrei, Ve'esarana, La Esarei, Ushabuatana, La Shavuot.
וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודשתבנה ודאחרימנה ודסרנה על נפשתנה מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה כולהון איחרת נבהון כולהון יהון שרן שוויקין שביטין בטלין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולקיימין נדרנו לנדרי וסרנו לאסרי ושבועתנה לשבועות.
Please turn to page 20. ונשלח לכל עדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה. Together,
all shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel, and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error.
Moses prayed to God, as you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now in keeping with your boundless love. And together,
and God responded, I forgive as you have asked.
We're on page 22.
Please be seated.
We're on page 25. We're on page 25.
I'd like to invite up Nora Baker for a reading found on page 25.
I am so sorry about that. So they can see you in the
Day and night are yours, creative spirit of the universe, the muted colors of twilight, the radiance of dawn. Yours are the spreading wings of light, the deepening shadows of darkness and ever-changing drama. In the human heart, too, the struggle between darkness and light unfolds from sunlit heights of generosity. The human heart sinks to the gloomy depths of selfishness. Although we fall, you give us strength to rise again. You call on those who hurt through word or deed to break free from wrongdoing and return to you. All who hear your call to goodness are embraced, and all who reject emptiness and evil find acceptance from you. We come into your presence this night of Kol Nidrei, aware that our shortcomings and weaknesses are many. Yet encouraged by your promise of forgiveness, we choose freely the path of repentance, restoring wholeness to our lives and holiness to the world.
At the bottom of that page, we'll read together.
Baruch
Atah Adonai, Hamarim Haravim, creator of twilight and dusk. On the following page, 26, we'll sing Ahavat Olam, our prayer for love of this world, love of this people, and love of God.
Ahavat
Olam,
Beit Yisrael,
Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta.
Alkein Adonai Eloheinu, L'shafeinu u'lechumeinu, Nasiach bechukacha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'le'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu, v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, u'lahem neged, yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. Di'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohem Amo Yisrael. We'll rise for the Shema as we are able on page 28. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. On the following page, we'll chant the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'divartam b'shitecha v'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shoftecha u'b'kumecha u'shartam le'ot al yadecha ve'ayu letosafot be'ineinecha u'chtatam al mezuzot beitecha u'ishareh. Page 32. Le'ma'an tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai
On page 40, we'll turn in our machzors, in our High Holy Day prayer books, to the Mi Chamocha, which is a prayer that we sing on Shabbat often, and also during the week if we pray. But it's very special on this Yom Kippur, on this Day of Atonement, because, well, today's very different. Today's a day where we think of who we are, who we've been, who we want to be, and how we can return to be the people that we want to be. And so Mi Chamocha has a prayer all about freedom. How do you want to be free this year? Mi Chamocha, on page 40. Next page we'll turn to Hashkivenu, our prayer for seeking shelter. We're going to jump back. I'd like to call up Lana Anders for a reading found on page 39. This is our prayer, Emet Ve'emunah. This is a prayer that we often skip in Reformed communities simply because of time, but it's a prayer about truth, and it's a prayer about faithfulness, and how ever more present is that tonight?
We can read responsively.
Our sages taught it is proper to mention the exodus from Egypt in our morning prayers and also at night.
We celebrate the going out from Egypt in the morning light, full of confidence and vigor as we enter the new day.
But in the evening, weary from the day's exertions, cast down and fearful at the coming of the night, what can the exodus teach us then?
Our nighttime prayer brings hope and trust in the future, as God did not abandon our people long ago, through the long dark night of exile. So the Holy One will be with us in time to come, to stand by the one you love. That is the true essence of faithfulness, the meaning of Emunah.
So it is written in the Psalms, to proclaim your kindness in the morning and your faithfulness in the nights.
Sing with joy in the mornings of your life, when light surrounds you and the world seems beautiful and good, and in the evenings of your life, when you dwell in sorrow and the world seems dark, do not despair.
Rabbi Jan Urbach teaches us that praying is more than merely reciting words. It's about encountering aspects of ourselves we rarely, if ever, see, shifting our perspective and seeing all things anew, and awakening our spirit and our sense of wonder. Praying is about connection with ourselves, with a community of other seekers, and with something or someone beyond us. As we enter into the Amidah, or our standing prayer, and the Chatzi Kaddish beforehand, our prayer for transition, I'd like us to think about those elements of connection with ourselves, with the people around us, and with something greater than us on this Yom Kippur evening. So with that, we'll turn to page 45 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Following the Chatzi Kaddish, we will do the Amidah, the standing prayer. So we'll stand as we are able from page 46 through 48. We'll continue with the next two prayers, and then we'll pray silently through page 81, and we'll sit when we feel comfortable.
הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפש בחיים, וכותרנו בסרט החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך עוזר, מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. הגיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל הצרה והושיע, מוריד הטוב, מכפר חיים וחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חבורים, ומותיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדום אליו, מלך מניף ומחייך, ומצליח ישועה, מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצורה, וחיים ורחמים, למען הצלחת ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהי העולם. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעלו לך סלם.
We'll continue silently through page 81 with the words on the pages or the words in our heart, and we'll be seated when we are finished.
page 78.
I'd like to call up Rabbi Lynn Goldsmith for some
I'm
words.
right here. So I want you to imagine two little girls playing on a swing set on a nice warm summer day. Back and forth they swing with the sun warm on their backs. One of them counts to 3, and they jump off together mid-swing, and they roll in the grass. They end up facing each other, and one says to the other, "What's Mom cooking for dinner tonight anyway?" "I don't know," says her sister, "except I saw that she had Brussels sprouts out." "Oh, yuck," said the other little girl. "But maybe we'll have ice cream for dessert." "Hey, would you rather have ice cream or Brussels sprouts?" Now, what kind of a choice is that? I mean, who in their right mind would choose Brussels sprouts over ice cream? And I don't want to know it if you do. So we're going to read in tomorrow's Torah portion, Nitzavim. "Re'ei natati lefanecha chayom, et ha'chayim ve'et ha'tov, ve'et ha'mavet ve'et ha'ra. Ha'chayim ve'chamavet natati lefanecha, ha'bracha ve'ha'chala. U'v'charta b'chayim l'ma'an tihiyeh atah v'zarecha." God, speaking through Moses, proclaims, "See, I set before you today life and goodness, death and evil. Life and death, blessing and curse. Choose a life in order that you and your offspring should live." Let's see. Life, death, good, evil. I don't think there's much of a choice there. In fact, it's pretty much a no-brainer. And not many people are going to consciously choose death and evil over life and goodness. God is exhorting us through Moses to choose life so that we don't choose to go, well, to the dark side. It seems really simple, but reality is not as black and white as this passage seems to us. Our own life and death is really not in our hands. God grants us life, and unless we choose to take our own lives, which is a decision, by the way, which is frowned upon in Jewish law, the choice our death is not ours either. Good or evil, blessing or curse, are really the choices that we have to make. Our ancient Torah commentator, Rashi, analyzed these choices, and he said that there are two sides of the equation. Life and goodness, and death and evil, hinge on each other. If we do what is good, then we'll have life. In contrast, if we do what's evil, we'll have death. One of Rashi's interpreters explained, I love the rabbis, you have a a rabbi that interprets, and an interpreter that interprets the rabbi's interpretation. But anyway, one of Rabbi's interpreters explained that God gives us life depending on our goodness and death depending on our wickedness. Note that in this interpretation, God gives us life and death depending on how we choose. Another ancient commentator, Ramban, told us in his comment on this verse that God exhorts the Israelites over and over again that there are two courses in their hands. It's in their power to walk in whichever way they desire. There is no power below or above that will hold them back. According to Ramban, not only is the choice up to us, but there is nothing in our way once we make up our minds. And then finally, Sforno, yet another biblical commentator, also emphasized choice. He said that when God set the blessing and the curses, lifnechem, before you, God means that the blessings or curses are attainable according to our choice. The idea that God grants us the ability to choose and that we bear total responsibility for our choices it runs as a common thread through all of the commentaries that I just read to you. We make decisions every single day in our life. These decisions can be incredibly significant, like who we choose for a life partner. Or they can be insignificant, like, am I going to wear black or brown socks today? Our choice can be so black and white that there's no real choice. You stop at a stoplight or you get creamed by a Mack truck. On the other hand, the choice can be so gray that it is difficult to see what is good and what is not so good. Shall I authorize the doctor to turn off the ventilator that's keeping my father alive? The choices that we make every day, from the weightiest to the most insignificant, determine whether our lives count as good and blessing or as evil and a curse. Many of the decisions we make every day we consider to be rather insignificant. In fact, most of the day we're on autopilot, making decisions without much, if any, thought at all. We'd be paralyzed and probably couldn't accomplish a whole lot if we had to really think about every decision we made. But even those insignificant decisions matter and can reveal the kind of person that we are. For example, think about your daily routine. You get up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee and breakfast, you throw on some clothes, you get in the car, you drive to work on autopilot. Now right now, as you think back on any given morning, do you remember what color your shirt was? Or can you even remember your drive to work? Yet, if we look at the label on the shirt, we might see that it was assembled in El Salvador. What do we know about conditions in the factories in El Salvador? Do their workers make a living wage? Do they exploit children in their factories? And as we drove unseeingly to a chosen destination here in Fort Collins, at the intersection of Mason and Harmony, do we even see that bedraggled person on the corner with a cardboard sign that's asking for money for food? What happened to him or her that they're begging on the street corner? Maybe choosing not to buy that particular brand of shirt because the manufacturer does use exploited labor, and letting the company know that you're boycotting their product because of that might help them to rethink some of their business decisions. Donating to the food bank of Larimer County might help the hungry in general, but also maybe swinging through the drive-thru at the McDonald's, which is also on that corner, and giving the hungry person some food might help just that one person. The point of this is not to make us crazy, second-guessing every single thing that we do, but it's to remind us that we do need to pause and think about what it is we're doing and what effect we could be having on other people, even if our choices may not seem so significant. Rabbi Eliezer is quoted in Midrash Deuteronomy as stating that evil comes to those who do evil and good comes to those who do good. God sets two paths before us. The choice is ours. But what do we do when the choice doesn't seem so easy? When is the line between good and evil not so clear? In a poll that was done right after the 2018 income taxes were filed, 15% of the people surveyed thought it was okay to cheat on your taxes. There's kind of a sense of entitlement here. You know, the government spends $1 bazillion on a hammer, so why shouldn't I cheat? Rich people don't pay any taxes, so why should I? Or my personal favorite, everybody else does it, so why shouldn't I do it? And it doesn't hurt anyone, so what is the big deal? Well, the big deal is it does hurt someone. If the government doesn't collect tax revenues, then the government programs are cut. And the one cut might be the one that you care about, like the school lunch program that feeds the children of that woman that we saw begging on the corner, or foreign aid to El Salvador, where your shirt was made. But more importantly, it hurts you. Rabbi Eliezer was right. Evil does come to those who do evil. The fact that we even question an action is probably an indication that it's wrong. Why is it wrong to cheat on your taxes? Because you're cheating. To say that everybody else does it is to try to deflect the blame from others to ourselves, from ourselves to others. If we know something's wrong, we should choose not to do it. If instead we come up with rationalizations or excuses as to why we chose the way we did, we can become more accustomed to rationalizing away the warnings that we had that what we're doing is not correct. We rationalize our actions because we're uncomfortable with the feeling that we might be doing something wrong. And that feeling of discomfort fades the more that we do the action that is not right. Some people say that that feeling of discomfort or the need to rationalize something that we know is wrong is our conscience pricking us. I prefer to think that it's God trying to tell us something. One of my very favorite rabbinic sayings is that there are times when the world in its fullness cannot contain the glory of God. And there are times when God speaks to a person between the hairs on their head. Those gray areas are not so gray if we are accustomed to doing the right thing and listening to that voice that speaks to us between the hairs on our head. God actually tells us through the Torah how to live our lives, how to make wise choices. In this week's Torah portion, he tells in the same speech that I quoted at the beginning of my talk here, is Le'ahacha et Adonai Elohecha l'shmo b'kolo u'dav kavo. Love Adonai your God, listen to God's voice, and cling to God. I do believe with all my heart that there's more to our existence than humans interacting with one another and our earth. God gave us life, but God also gave us responsibility. God wants us to live in a certain way. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel says, the religion is a consciousness of duty, of being committed to higher ends, a realization that God is not only man's, but it's also God's sphere of interest. Therefore, whatever man does to man, man also does to God. To love God, to listen to God, to cling to God, means to answer to a higher authority, and to understand, as Heschel does, that God put a whole lot of faith in humankind by giving us free choice. The definition of what we call good and evil change over time, but what is universal is that the idea is that good and evil does exist. There is a right and there is a wrong. Last year at this time, a white supremacist entered a synagogue while Jews were worshiping on Shabbat in Pittsburgh and murdered 11 congregants. I will not dignify the shooter by using his name. However, it is clear he was motivated by hatred, pure and simple. I have to believe that what he did was absolutely reprehensible, and that, as Heschel explained, his actions against his fellow human beings was also an action against God. At some level, he had to have known it. And as a result of the choice he made that day, synagogues and Jewish organizations have felt compelled to use precious resources to protect themselves. And we all wonder if we're ever going to return to those days when we could leave our doors open without fear. On the gut level, we know that he destroyed life, our sense of safety, and he also destroyed a little of God in doing what he did. One cannot love God and walk in God's ways if you're only motivated by hatred. I wish that man had listened to God speaking between the hairs on his head. What we have to do in the choices we make is justify the faith that God placed in us by giving us choices. And we do this by walking in God's ways. This means very simply doing the right thing, not hurting each other directly or indirectly. All of us make choices every single day that either hurt or help one another. It's a little overwhelming, actually, if you consider it. But it's something we should be considering every day. Do you know why? Because ultimately we are the choices we make. The sum total of the choices that we make throughout our lives, whether they're insignificant or weighty, whether they're easy or they're difficult, they determine the type of person that we are and determines whether we are a blessing or a curse. There's a tale of a Hasidic master who asked his disciples, what is the most significant moment in all of Jewish history? And the students answered, well, of course, the crossing of the Red Sea, the giving of Torah, the conquest of Jerusalem. No, said the master, the most important moment in all Jewish history is right now. We here now. That is our only reality. Each moment and each decision is our reality and is a revelation of who we are, now, today, and this minute. So may we choose wisely. Hiratso. And I would like to invite Bunny Katzman up, and we would please turn in your Mausoleum to page 83.
Hashem knew when I was young and learned the alphabet, life was open to me. A was full of aspiration, B was for beauty, C for confidence, and D for dreams. And so on through the list. No fewer than 26 opportunities, 26 possibilities. And yet I fear that with the passage of time, I've squandered them, creating instead A's of apathy, B's of brusqueness, and C's of coarseness. Help me then to return to that innocence. Let the letters once again, and let them rise to the heavens and form into the words that you know I wish to say.
This is the first moment of the year 5780, when we enter into Ashamnu and Al-Chet, our moments to confess in the new year. In Ashamnu, we do not merely confess our own sins, rather we confess within the framework of our entire community. This is a framework in which the individual takes responsibility for the sins of the collective, whether or not they are deeds in which the individual engaged. So my question is, why would an individual confess for something they didn't do? The Talmud teaches us, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh. All of the people of Israel are responsible for one another. The idea that communal responsibility for the collective, rests with the individual. So in this text, Ashamnu, we see that the collective will be judged by the deeds of its individuals, and the whole collective will carry the responsibility and will be rewarded or punished accordingly. So on page 82, we'll pray Ashamnu together, because when one of us falls, we are all here to pick one another up. No one needs to go through this journey alone. We'll take our fists and we'll beat our hearts together as one community as we rise as we are able. We'll begin reading in English in the middle of page 82. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin, and truth we have stumbled and strayed, we have done wrong. Barnu Dofi. Barnu Dofi. He'evinu. Vehir Shanu. Zadnu. Chamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker, Yatnu Ra, Ki Pinatnu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Ore, Rashanu, Shihatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu, In English, we'll read together at the bottom of the page. Of these wrongs we are guilty.
We betray, we steal, we scorn, and act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey, we abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit violence, we are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray.
We'll turn to page 86 for the Vidui Rabbah, which is the long confession. This confession is a bit different. It will be done in English and in Hebrew and English responsibly. We'll do the first two pages, 86 and 87. And then the rest will be confessions on our own, confessions in our hearts, confessions on the page, and we'll be seated when we are finished. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בזדון ובשגגה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בדיבור פה.
The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and the harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, באימוץ הלב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בתפשוט פה.
The ways we have wronged you and hardened our hearts, and the harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בחחש ובחזק, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, ברכילות.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and the harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בפלילות. ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בזלזול הורים ומורים.
The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בווידוי פה. ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בהבנות רע.
The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בחוזק יד. ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, במשא ומתן.
The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and the harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty and business.
Continue on our own silently and be seated when we're finished. The next segment of our service is the 13 midot, the 13 attributes of God. In this section, we'll chant the divine attributes of God 3 times, and we'll have a moment to center ourselves with an English intention before each chanting. These attributes are meant to stir us, to remind us how to, like the song says, hashivenu, to cause us to return to something that we want to be. And so how can we embody these divine-like attributes that we know we can embody in this year to come? I'd like to invite up John Scher for the first reading, found on page 100.
God of forgiveness, we come before you in need of compassion. As at Sinai, you spoke words that guide our lives to this day, but our ancestors lost faith in you, lost hope in their Redeemer. With one voice they had promised, we will do and obey, and yet stiff-necked they broke their word, adoring an idol of gold. How wondrous your compassion is in the face of their rebellion, your forgiveness in that moment of human weakness and doubt. We too have broken promises to you. We too worship the work of our own hands. We too make of gold a god, and we too forsake your word. At Sinai, you revealed 13 attributes of mercy. These aspects of your nature and very essence we now recall.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rahum V'Chanun, Erech Chaim, Ve'Ram Chesed Ve'emet, Notzeh Chesed L'Chalofim, Notzeh Avon V'Feshon, Ve'Ratzon V'Nakeh.
In English, we'll read together.
Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
For our second recitation of the 13 attributes, I'd like to invite up Renee Cohn-Jones for a reading found on page 105.
In all your ways, be aware of God, for there is no sovereign without a people. Ein melech v'lo am. We are the chariot in which God's glory rides, for there is no sovereign without a people. Let the love of God be spread through our deeds, for there is no sovereign without a people. You are my servant Israel. I will be glorified through you, for there is no sovereign without a people. Where is God? Anywhere we let God in. For there is no sovereign without a people. Ein melech v'lo am. Eternal God, you revealed to Moses your 13 attributes of mercy. They exist in the world through our awareness. They transform the world through our actions, and we speak them now as prayer and aspiration.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rahum V'Chanun, Erech Chaim, Ve'Ram Chesed Ve'emet, Notzeh Chesed L'Chalofim, Notzeh Avon V'Feshon,
recitation, I'd like to invite up Melinda Blatt for a reading found on page 106.
We are your people, and you are our God. We are your children, and you are our father, our mother. We are the people who serve you, and you call us to serve. We are your community, and you are our portion. We are your legacy, and you are our purpose. We are your flock, and you are our shepherd. We are your vineyard, and you watch over us. We are your work, and you are our maker. You are your beloved, and you are our lover. We are your treasure, and you are the one we cherish. We are your people, and you reign over us. We offer you our words, and you offer us yours.
Forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. At the bottom of page 107.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rahum V'Chanun, Erech Chaim, Ve'achet Emet, Noseh Chesed L'Chalokim, Noseh Avon V'Pesha, V'Chatzot V'Nageh.
We now turn to page 111. And I'll ask you, I'll ask you to read together. Answer us.
You who answered our mother Sarah in her old age. You who answered our father Abraham on Mount Moriah. You who answered their son Isaac when bound upon the altar. You who answered Rebekah when she cried, "Why do I resist?" You who answered Jacob at Bethel, "Israel shall be your name." You who answered Leah in her sadness. You who answered Rachel in her pain. You who answered Joseph in the prison house. You who answered the midwives, Shiphrah and Puah,
At the
birthing sons. You who answered Jochebed's courage on the bank of the Nile. You who answered our fathers and our mothers at the Sea of Reeds. You who answered Moses at Sinai. I bore you on eagle's wings. You who answered the daughters of the Zelophehad. You stood up for the rights before Moses and God. You who answered Elijah with a still small voice in the wilderness. You who answered the righteous ones before us, men and women of integrity and compassion. Answer us.
And we'll turn the page. Avinu Malkeinu, illumine us for the path of life. Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled by? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live our life in vain? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers? I ask you all to please turn to page 114 and rise.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Hinei Banu Ha'asim, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed.
invite you to follow me in the English, starting at the top of page 114. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kamol Aleinu Va'al Olalenu B'Tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Dever V'Cherev V'Ra'av Me Aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, all the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Kol Tsar U'Mastiz Me Aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, all the rain of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kotbenu V'Sefer Chayim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew us for a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, Molei Gadenu Mabirkotecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, Karein Karen Mishahecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes hold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, Na'al Tishivenu Rakein Milpanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kabel Berachamim Uvratzon Et Tefilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept it and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, Asay Imanu Lema'an Shemecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, Asay Lema'anka Imlo Lema'anenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake and not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu Melech Ela Ata.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, Patach She'arei Shemayim Litfilitenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayers.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu Chuz Barachem Aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Aleinu V'Aleinu, Ki Ein Banu Masim, Asher Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Asher Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Le'moshienu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Aleinu V'Aleinu, Ki Ein Banu Masim. You may be seated. And I would like to call up, first of all, Pat Harris, who wants to make a very, very, very brief announcement, followed by Judy Warren, whose announcement may not be quite so brief, but it'll be very effective. She's brief. First of all, Shana Tova. Tomorrow, as you probably all know, after the closing service, we will have a break the fast. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about it first, about the food drop-off. We have a table in the hall in front of the kitchen. You can drop your food off at 9:30 to 10 a.m. and then again at 2:30 to 5. This is where you pay cash for your admittance or donations and bring your food. There's an email flyer that went out on Sunday. I hope you all have received it. If you haven't opened it, it still resides in your inbox. Please open it. It's instructions on what to do to prepare
before dropping it off, we need to have the name and so forth. You can read it in the email. There are a few places left. If you haven't signed up for Break the Fast, we can accept them tonight. If you would please talk to me after services. Thank you. Bye.
And now a word from our sponsor. On Rosh Hashanah, for those of you who were here, Rabbi Stott suggested a mantra for this next year. Read up, speak up, and show up. Then Temple President Carol Crane talks about the vision for the temple. So that was, listen up. So what am I left with, you know? Carol leaves, says, Judy, take care of Yom Kippur. Well, I think I'll make some comments on their wise beginnings. Read up. Lots to think about here. When's the last time any of you read a spiritual text other than the prayer book? Talmud, Torah, attended a study group or a class? Last year? 2 years ago. Your bar mitzvah. Think about that for just a second. If your answer was that last one, it should scare you. You have a 12-year-old's knowledge base. Remember when you were 12?
I do.
Yeah. What was your view of the world? What was your view of the news, of what was happening, of sex? Oh, God, don't go there. So perhaps it's time to read up on something, get an adult perspective, not you. You're not you're out of this one. And if you do have an adult perspective of something, number 2 is speak up. Do you have an opinion? You're Jewish, you have an opinion, you have several opinions. Come to a board meeting, come to a study group, tell us what you think. Do you need an invitation? I give you an invitation, please come. That's as formal as I get. And if you don't want to come to a temple or Hadash thing, there are lots of things in this place we call home, Fort Collins. You can go to Interfaith Council. You can go to the food bank. You can go to the Murphy Center. You can go, my goodness, have you seen the United Way book? There are zillions of agencies who would love your voice, your experience, and your time. Speak up. They want you. And in order to speak up, you have to show up. We just talked about getting to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Tikkun Olam, being God's partner in repairing this world. And Lord knows, and He knows, we know, it needs a lot of repair. We Jews, we are great supporters of organizations, community organizations, civic organizations. We write a check for the United Way, for NPR, for the food bank, for CPR. But who writes checks to Jewish organizations? Jewish people. For the most part, only Jews support Jewish causes. Who supports synagogues? Its members. Carol talked about the futuring that we all went to, or most of us who went to. She talked last week about the things we want to all do. We showed up at that futuring. We talked about what we want. And you all know, in talking about those things, what it takes. It takes membership, and it takes money. So, as I said, show up. It's a time to talk to folks. Ask them, hey, come on to temple. Come join me. Come join our ranks. We need to grow a bit in membership if we're going to tackle some of those projects we talked about. So the question is, and this was asked of me many years ago at a synagogue on the East Coast, what commitment are each of you willing to make? Are you willing to commit to attending one service a month? One. Are you willing to make a commitment to a Torah study every other month? Would you attend a service that you've never attended before? Or would you, like me, attend a service, and I do make this commitment, to attend a service that you hated as a child? I have a 9-year-old's view of Purim. I hate it. I will go this year. I will come this year. Are you brave enough to speak to a friend or a neighbor about Or Hadash, and maybe persuade them to come with you to a service? Oh my goodness. Can you increase your dues commitment? Not by a lot, but by one mocha chocolate a month. Or for those of you who are the age closer to yours, one beer a month. What are you willing to do? We are a community of Jews. We come together to pray for a good, safe, happy, and prosperous new year. We can make one happen. And as Carol said last week in her comments, the only way we can do that is together.
Please rise and turn to page 116 for the Alleluia. On page 121, this holy night concludes with memory. Our last thoughts always are of those we lost. We miss them especially tonight, yearning for their presence at our side. The service we have shared once was theirs. They spoke and sang the ancient words. They prayed, repented, and yearned for better lives, as we have done. Flawed in their deeds, imperfect in their faith, they still drew strength from their tradition, as we seek fortitude in ours. What was good and beautiful in their lives once gave us joy, and now inspires us to reach higher. The knowledge that they loved us deeply brings comfort to our hearts. So we light candles of remembrance and gratitude, and we speak this timeless truth. Zichronam livracha, their memory is a blessing, now and forever. We pray that their goodness will live on in our lives, planting seeds of kindness and hope for generations to come. I invite you to take a moment of silence to think about the people that you are missing tonight, that you wish could be here with you, and others who you may be missing and longing for as well. And on page 22, as one community, we recite Kaddish together. Yitzchadal v'yitzchadash shemei rabah, v'yamla divrach v'yutei v'yamli malvutei, v'chayekol v'yamekol, v'chayekol v'yis Yisrael, v'hagavah v'yizman karim v'yimru amen. Yahei shemei rabah mevarach v'yalam lo'ei almayna, yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ach
Nadar, Yitalev, Yitalal, Shemir, Kushav, Rirud. Le'elam, Milah, Nikol, Rechacha, B'shirata. Tush B'shirata, V'nechamata. Da'amiran, Li'alma, B'imru, Amen. Yehi Shalom, Rabba, Mishamayim. V'chayim, Aleinu, Ve'alkol Yisrael, B'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, B'imrama. Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu, Ve'alkol Yisrael, B'imru, Amen.
And may the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. And very quickly, the schedule for tomorrow is our morning service will begin at 10 o'clock. There will be a children's service from 10:15 to 10:45. Renee, which room is it in?
We don't have a room, so we're just meeting sort of in the lobby.
Okay, if you have children for the children's service, they're meeting in the lobby. We'll go for about a half an hour. At 12 o'clock at the end of the service, we'll take a break for a couple of hours and then reconvene at 3 o'clock for a study session from 3 to 3:45. The afternoon service will begin at 3:45 with Yisker starting at 4:30, Ne'ilah starting at 5, and then Abdallah and breakfast will be 5:30 in the Prairie Sage room. Y'all got that? You know it's a lot. A talit is not normally worn during services in the evening. It's usually only worn for morning services. But we wear a talit on Erev Yom Kippur, on Kol Nidrei, because according to tradition, we will be fasting and praying all night. Therefore, we never take it off. Now, I'm sure that most of us are actually going to go to bed tonight, and we're not going to be wearing our talit over our pajamas. However, we are just beginning this journey of Yom Kippur together. We would like to think as we part tonight that this is just a pause on the journey that we're going to continue with tomorrow morning. For this evening, I share the prayer written by Rabbi Marcy Bellows. She writes, I pray that we all choose wisely, even when we don't receive recognition, even when we won't get caught, even when we won't receive applause, and even when no one but God is watching. Shabbat Tov, everyone.